this computer. Here we go.
Let's go for it. Mm-hmm.
Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Rushcast. We're a little bit late this week, but, you know, over time, you'll be seeing this on the playlist and you won't know any different. So here we are. What are we, episode 15 now? Is it 14 or 15?
I believe it is episode 15.
There we go. 15 episodes in already. Well, here we go, ladies and gents. This is Rushcast, the show where we are working our way through the Rush back catalogue. We are doing an album at a time, and we will be including side projects and solo albums as well. And this week we are doing Counterparts, 1990. When was this? 94?
94, I believe.
Yeah.
Not well. It was actually the back end of 93. It was released 19th of October, 1993.
There we go. The man with the info. So yeah, this is the return to form for me. This is it's a new era for the band, and this is the start of a winning streak. Well, and the last streak as well. We're sort of winding down now. We are coming to we've got a while to go yet, but we are in the final stages of the show.
Yeah.
We've got more episodes behind us than what we've got ahead. But yeah, this is a more raw sounding album. It's got more punch to it. I think the songs have got a bit more hooks to it. It's not so floaty and kind of neither here nor there. If you're a regular watcher or you've been working your way through the series, you'll know I've been struggling with the last couple of albums. And it feels for me, and I did use this analogy on Maidencast, funnily enough. It just feels to me the last couple of albums, it was when your boiler's playing up and your shower's on and it's kind of warm. It's not exactly cold, but it's not exactly hot. And it's falling on you and you're checking your boiler and you're resetting it and is that all right? Is that all right? Oh yeah, it's all right. You know, it's not, you don't want to face calling the boiler guy out because you know it's going to cost you a fortune. So you're sitting there with this lukewarm water with a little bit of pressure and you're scrub the shampoo out and you're holding your head for ages, getting it out when you would just take a couple of seconds. And you get it fixed, you get your boiler, and then all of a sudden, right, test the shower. Is that all right? Boom! That's what you get. Yes, that's all the difference. You was kind of getting used to the lukewarm and no pressure, but then all of a sudden, when you get that hot jet, you go, yes, now we're back in business, and that's how this album feels for me. How about you, Paul?
Yeah, I think so. I think you've sort of hit the nail on the head straight away. This is definitely a return to form. I was thinking back on a comment you made on the last show that you lumped the three previous albums together: Hold Your Fire, Presto, and Roll the Bones, which we did last week. Of those three, the album I liked the most was Presto, but its potential wasn't fully realized, probably more because of the production of it. I think of them three albums, that is the most consistent one across the album, personally, my own tastes. Although, as we said last week, a couple of cracking songs on Roll the Bones, but it wasn't, to me, as consistent an effort as Presto. And this, belatedly, is where they wanted to be with Presto.
Yes.
With regards to production. So it's about 4 years in the making, but I think because they approached this album, it's I don't know what information you've got about this, but with this particular album, it was back under the umbrella of Peter Collins, but, and I don't know whether I don't want to hog all of this again.
No, go ahead. I know. Yeah.
But you probably know what I'm going to say. In this particular album, it was recorded more organically and by a man that is well known to any Iron Maiden fan, recorded by Kevin Caveman Shirley.
Yeah.
And everything has to be old school, as Geddy Lee described it. Everything was old school. It was good quality microphones and capturing everything as live as possible. That to get that power back in, because they, and I've again, I'll refer to the book I've got here. They said, while the two preceding albums had succeeded in removing the layers of keyboards and synthesizers that had come to dominate Rush's sound in the 80s, they had been replaced with, for them, an unusual pop production that Rupert Hine had brought and that he had encouraged the band to explore. And of course, his work as a producer, he had moved the band towards a more avant-garde sound, which he had himself developed as a performer previously. Rush were in need of support of their organic development, and Rush themselves wanted that. Certainly from their previous tour, the Roll the Bones tour, the band had become aware that their recent sound albums had not captured much of the power and the energy of their live performances. So they wanted to try and get that. And with the Caveman, they got it. And there are some interesting comments about this. The one thing Kevin Shirley did was take away a lot of Alec Lifeson's board of effects, and that caused some arguments. At first, Alec Lifeson saying, "I want reverb on the guitar," and Kevin saying, "No, you're not having any. You don't sound any good like that. You want it." And
yeah,
so,
he wasn't afraid. He's South African as well, so the
yeah,
South Africans have got a. Then not they've got a pretty good way of telling you exactly how it is without being rude. They've
yeah,
got a
yeah,
good
yeah,
they've got a good bit of charm that way.
yeah, yeah. But
They
yeah, they
there's a
definitely,
spoonful of sugar with the medicine, but they don't
yeah,
blow smoke up your arse either.
yeah,
But
yeah. I think initially there was a little bit of bashing the heads
yeah,
between
but he
Kevin and
also
Alex.
apparently told Neil, I can get you a better drum sound in 20 minutes.
Yeah, yeah,
And he
yeah.
wasn't scared to tell him as well.
Oh no, definitely not. But
And a good
Rush were
producer shouldn't.
always,
And
yeah,
yeah,
no, no, they shouldn't. And Rush would take that on board. I know there was a little bit of a clash of heads with Alex and Kevin, and they had to iron that out. They said
yeah,
they ironed that out with they had way too much to drink, a bottle or two of tequila, and they had sore heads and incredible hangovers afterwards. But they ironed it out. But Alex has turned around and said he was absolutely right with regards to making this album sound heavier, and as I think, as he said, it's got more hair on it. I would say for Rush, definitely this is an album that comes with a pair of hairy testicles, you know, certainly, and it sounds better for it. I think this is I'm sure you're going to say the same. When you listen to this album, it just feels good. It's a good album, and definitely very much that return to form that they had promised on Presto.
yeah. I mean,
Belatedly, they've
sometimes
got to it.
I've got some thingies with his, but then the bands he works with always seem to be happy with the results, and the list of bands he has worked with sort of speaks for itself. So I just think, well,
Oh yeah,
if I'm not happy with how this or particular album sounds, it's like, yeah, but that's how it's meant to sound. So bollocks, basically. It's my problem, not theirs. I think the general thing with Iron Maiden, in the case of Iron Maiden, is that everyone wants it to sort of sound a bit more, have a bit more hot modern crunch, and they only ever tuned down for one song on the Book of Souls, I believe.
right.
But how I want, or I'd like to Maiden to sound, I've basically come to peace with. I've got that on Bruce Dickinson's solo album, or two solo albums, mainly the Chemical Wedding, which is he'd kind of gone experimental and I can do what I want. I'm a solo artist now. And then it all kind of came to a halt. And
Right. Yeah.
and then he got with Roy Z, who's a known guitarist, known producer as well, South American. Not sure if he's Brazilian but he's in the Latin America. He's from there,
Okay. Yeah.
and that he became his second man. But then with this new album, he got on Adrian Smith, who had left Bruce, who had left
Yeah.
Iron Maiden before
Yes.
Bruce had.
Yeah. Generally. Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
got Iron Maiden and made this modern, heavy Iron Maiden album, and it really was like a genuine competition to Maiden at this point. It was like, yeah.
Would you say stole the thunder a bit?
Little, yeah, because during the Blaze Bailey years, which I've defended, and there's hours of content on this channel for me, so I'm not going to go into that now. But I think what the real problem, it all got laid at Blaze's feet, which was unfair. Stephen decided, I've got a studio in my garden, I'll record the album there and I'll produce it myself because I've learned everything off Martin Birch, And there's you should have got Kevin Shirley then. I think Kevin Shirley. You can sit at the engineering table all you like and twiddle all your knobs you like, but they needed a producer to go, this. And when he came on board with Brave New World, Adrian Smith and Bruce came back, but with Kevin Shirley, the results spoke for themselves. But I would have liked, I would like a bit more of a kick and a bit more of that darker, heavier sound. But I get that on those two Bruce Dickinson albums. I've made peace with that now. But you've got, obviously it would go on to work with Rush a bit more. He would go on to produce. But Dream Theater. Is it Black Country Communion?
I think did he?
Joe Bonamassa, Glenn
Hughes, has he done all of those though?
He's done a couple. He's done a couple.
I don't know if he's done the whole lot
catalog.
Yeah.
But he's done everything Maiden have released post reunion. Dream Theater. So
I think his CV speaks for itself, and certainly, I mean, I'm not completely versed with Iron Maiden, but certainly albums you've lent to me and Brave New World, and there was a few others onwards. I couldn't fault the production. I thought they sounded really good, a lot of clarity, but also a lot of power to them, and really. But also the separation, especially with three guitarists,
I think what he does, he hooks them all up.
Yeah.
And then he goes, right, play live. Go for the song. So I think Bruce is in a booth, but he's there watching the band. And then it's just, right, listen back. Are you happy? Right, you want to do that again? Right, you can do that again. Bang. And then it just all comes together. It comes rather than the 100th take, do it again, do it again,
I think with Rush, obviously, it was a bit easier because there's three of them. But I think it's a good sounding album. And I think, again, it's better put than what I can put into words, but it says here, Counterparts succeeds in this regard as being one of the most sonically satisfying Rush albums ever produced, while still retaining the dynamic range and audio fidelity that would begin to lack in future work by the band. The songs themselves are a stylistic response to the grunge and alternative rock that had begun to dominate the rock scene in the early 90s. Pop and hip hop influences had run their course. Counterparts was Rush's development into their purest and most powerful distillation, back again as a genuine power trio. And Counterparts, this album is regarded by many fans as a return to form.
It seems that they've come full circle because they've come back to their roots in terms of, well, just power of the sound, really, and to a stripped down 3-piece playing rock music. It's, if you want to, you want to leave behind. We don't need, like, it's not going to come back. We're not to the 20-minute epics,
No.
and that's not necessarily needed. But with
Mhm.
those last 3 albums, all of their identity was being stripped away, and they were just becoming a very friendly. It was just a
Mm.
radio rock, and like I say, I'm
Yeah.
comparing them to REM and bands like that. You know, it
Yeah.
was always,
Yeah.
and in
Yeah.
that alternative music, you know, you would have your REM would be right. This is your guitar led
Yeah.
alternative music, but then under that you had your grunge, which eventually would make its way prominent to the top. I mean,
Mm.
and again, they rose to prominence. Those bands, they were doing MTV's Unplugged and stuff like that. But
They did.
I think that did influence a lot of people, much like
Oh, yeah, it
when
did.
in the metal
Yeah, it did.
scene, when a band like Pantera broke through, the current metal bands were going, oh, we need to adopt this to
Mm.
sound relevant
Yeah.
again. And yeah, it doesn't. We've still got, you could say, still radio friendly songs. You've still got accessible songs, but it does feel like, yeah, they've got a bit of punch in their step again. You can hear the bass, as Alex Lifeson said that he could feel the wood vibrating again.
Yeah.
Neil's drums sound live, and you know he's got rid of the electronic kit and all that. So we've still got, you know, bass. I say basically structured songs, but even a bit of prog has come back.
Oh, yeah, there
They're
is. I
messing
think
about
so.
with the riffs, and there's some odd time signatures, but it's more of a, here's a little surprise, here's a curveball to throw at you,
Yeah.
rather than being weird, you know.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. Absolutely. It's
um,
yeah, go on,
but
sorry.
it feels like I'm listening to a Rush album.
Yeah.
It would feel like, yeah, I've got that feeling from those old albums again, but I'm still, they're still taking a step forward.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely more organic. I was just looking at, so they have stripped it back. I mean, obviously there are still synths on this, but they're very, very low down, and there is some electronic percussion on this album, but
Is
it's
there? Okay.
more, yeah, but it's more minimalistic.
Yeah.
It's very much interspersed, and we'll get to them on the various songs. What was I just gonna say? The fact that the fans rate this album quite highly, it did become one of the band's most successful albums and peaked at number 2 in the USA, which we'll obviously get onto with regards to the stats. This is also the last album that they would record at the studio, because after this it became a derelict place. So it's the last album ever to be recorded there for Rush anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer the studio itself carried on, but for Rush, this was the end of an era with regards to where they would record, through no fault of their own. It's just something that happened. Yeah. I'm ready to kick into this if you
Yeah.
are.
Well, Animate, the opening track. Now,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
again, you even hear the 1, 2, 3, 4, you know,
Yeah.
and then Alex and Geddy kicking together. You know, you got the bass. He's all over that bass. It's not just playing the song. You know,
Yeah.
you've got the guitar as well, just backing up Geddy's lead bass, really. And yeah, it's just rolling.
Well, to me, what a great opener.
Yeah.
And I'll read some of the comments here. It says, as if to ensure to the listeners that Heinz' crystalline and arguably sterile productions had been consigned to history, Animate opens with an audible counting from Peart before the raw power of his Ludwig kit dominates the soundscape. Lee shortly joins him with one of the first expositions of the technique that would dominate his playing from Counterparts onwards, the fast and percussive flamenco fingerstyle bass playing that allows him to lay down the bass part with an enormous amount of rhythmic expression. That's how it begins. And I'd say Ludwig kits are really powerful, but the way that Kevin Shirley has captured it just sounds really, it is really good. Such a great opening song. And you've got the keys there. but it's just there to back up what's going on in front of it. And as you say, the bass is really quite forward here on this, but not to diminish what Alex is playing here. He's playing some great, he's typical sort of arpeggiated, expressive guitar on this. Is just such a, it's still got a lot of power to it. Yeah, well, what a great opening song. Have you got any comments, anything in your book
I mean,
about this?
it's even got this nice little interlude as well.
When
it kind of just takes the pulse, and you've got the Alex's searing guitar. It's just really atmospheric, and just do you remember I said about being on an open road? It just, you vision this big horizon, and this is a driving album. I think this is a great album to play on a long drive. With a good view. But yeah, they're just firing on all cylinders. Like, this is how you open an album, you know.
Definitely.
Everyone's on form. Again, it's a well crafted, catchy song with a bit of noodling for good measure, showing you what it also feels like it comes into, I've mentioned, you know, Alex got a soaring solo in it, but it feels like you're in the room with the band. This sounds like you're
you do,
not even in a recording studio, in a rehearsal studio. It feels like someone's just put a mic into the middle of the room and go for it.
Yeah, it's almost as if they're set up in front of you and they're playing for you.
Yeah,
that's what it sounds like. Definitely, you know. But it is a great song. I like that bit where it cuts back on it. It, as you say, gives that atmosphere, which is something I think, that perhaps they just sort of lost that a little bit. It says here, I'm only quoting this. The song explores the psychological ideas of Carl Jung, I think that's how he's Jung, Jung, who posited that each of us has a masculine and a feminine subconscious, the animus and anima, respectively. While animate appears initially to be about two people, or indeed one person's reaction to another, it is in fact the way men respond to their own feminine subconscious, a tempering influence which must be gently dominated in order that it serves its function, but also that it does not overwhelm one's personality entirely. It says the song's main rhythmic theme has its roots in British R&B. The ethereal, however you wish to pronounce it, midsection was heavily influenced by some of the tribal drumming that Peart had heard on his travels in Africa. So that's where the influence of that middle atmospheric section comes from. And the other two guys just responding to what Peart was doing. And that's got electronic samples in that.
Oh, okay.
But it's interspersed with the organic acoustic drum kit to really good effect on that. Yeah, great opener. Brilliant live. Always, I'll see them fortunately do this live, and it's a great song live. It really comes into its own live more than than this. Well, and it is well captured on here, but it is still great. Over to you, Joe, if you want to kick
let's move on then to Stick It Out. This has got a great opening riff. And this is, again, Alex is back in the room. You know, and you know, it's, again, it just kicks. We've took off with Animate, and we're just cruising nicely with Stick It Out. Again, it's the band are just on form. They're just firing all cylinders. We're carrying on as we've started, really. Yeah,
definitely. Have you got anything on this?
Not really, no. It's
a great, and it's a great song. It's, again, I'm just going to quote from the book. It says here, with its lyric, a simple exploration of the title's double meaning, the song that the band claim verges on parody is one of the heaviest the band would ever record.
Yeah.
And it is chunky with that, because you got that guitar riff that comes
Oh,
in. Then you've got
it's
a little bit
almost
of there's a little bit of feedback, controlled feedback.
it's almost Sabbath. In fact, yeah, it sounds
It says here, you
certainly opening
talking,
like a Sabbath song. Yeah,
yeah. Uh, you saying about drop drop tuning. This is the guitars are tuned down to a drop D. Lee and Lyson provide the key motive of the song with its own complicated heavy riff. It says here the riff itself is straightforward, but rhythmically, it's significantly more complex than one would at first think.
that wouldn't surprise me with
Yeah,
Neil. Neil always is straightforward.
It's more complex than you think it is. You got a slightly jazzy interlude and percussive turnarounds in this song. Stick It Out is considerably more interesting than its simple hard rock initial the way it hits you. So it says the band have spoken somewhat unkindly about this song over the years, but they did perform this. I see them perform this on the Time Machine tour, and it was great. I mean, it was again just lends itself so much to the live situation, especially with all the feedback and everything. I mean, Alex was going to town on this when I see them do this. Great. Yeah, the fact that they played it says here, suggests that there was some fondness for this song after all, because it is a swaggeringly, as it puts here, heavy track.
Yeah,
I mean, it really punches, especially on the choruses where it really,
I can imagine the crowd reacting well to it.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. It was yeah. I don't know if, again, I'm trying not to hog this. It says here, Stick It Out has the dubious honor of being the only Rush song to have been critiqued by MTV's Beavis and Butthead.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Who were unimpressed with the song's promo video. I can't recall the video for this. And it starred a dude with dreadlocks and tattoos strapped to a chair. I've never seen it, so I can't comment on this. But apparently, it got, they weren't overly impressed with it. The producers.
It's funny because Beavis and Butthead was made by Mike Judge hated heavy metal, and he made this characters of these two idiot stereotype heavy metalers, and they would make fun of heavy metal videos, and metalers loved it.
Yeah, and they did. It sort of backfired.
I've
really,
seen metalers having a video having the shit ripped out of them by Beavis and Butthead, and that was like their crowning achievement. Yeah. We got on Beavis and Butthead. That we blew up. They ripped it the whole time, but that's now our biggest song. Yeah. And Chuck Schuldiner from Death, when they started mimicking his vocals, because he had like this kind of scratchy vocals like that, and Beavis is trying to do it, like does an impression of him, and I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
So
was the saying, there's no such thing as bad publicity, and I think it's a little bit of that in it. It's sort of a claim to fame got slated on Beavis and Butthead.
It looks like your screen's frozen, but I can still hear you.
So mine's okay. I can see you. So
it'll come out in the wash then.
Yeah, it will do.
So let's moving on then to Cut Off the Cheese. And sorry, cut to the chase. Sorry,
I was going to say cut of the cheese. Have you been on the wine?
Yeah. So we kind of kick off really the album with a 1-2 punch, and this one sort of takes a step back and a reset, and this one sort of builds up a little bit more, not a lot, but you got some nice clean guitar, and then it builds up to a nice driving rhythm again with a big chorus, and then more of what we've got really. Yeah. What do you think of Cut to the Chase?
I do like this one. I like this song. I like the way it starts off fairly low key on this. It's quite a straight ahead rocker, really.
Yeah, it comes back and forth, doesn't it? That dun, 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 and then kicks into a nice thing. You got a blistering solo on this as well. I think it's quite understated, but Alex is, he even goes a bit of Joe Satriani on this one. Oh no, if I lost him.
Pressable drive to chase after dreams and desires. You may be right. It's all a waste of time. I guess that's a chance I'm prepared to take. Licensed lively guitar solo takes its influence from Eric Johnson, fluidly gliding from note to note at an impressive pace, once again proving to any doubters that Lifeson's technical ability equals his impressive creativity. And I think on all three of these songs that we've looked at so far, I like his solos on all three of these songs have been great. I've really, I'm not an air guitarist, but I dare say there's air guitarists.
You're an air drummer.
Yeah, I'm an air drummer. They would go with these. They're all good solos. Great sound, obviously by the production, just great.
There's even
sound.
a little messing about as well, maybe a bit of playing with a bit of electronic with the drums, and you got the and
it brings it back in, I don't know. I think that is electronic drums there, but they're made to sound like a muted acoustic.
Yeah.
Or it may be the acoustic kit that Kevin the Caveman Shirley has sort of just totally diminished all the EQ on it. But then when that snare kicks back in, it really, and then straight in again. Just love the dynamic of it. It just, again, I can't fault this song. Like I can't fault the previous two. I like all three of them so far.
Yeah, I'm finding it hard really to sort of say too much about the songs because it just is. It's just they're just not messing about. They're just getting on with it.
To me, it's like an onslaught. You're being taken on this journey, whether you like it or not. To me,
and it's just gliding along. It's just
it's no friction whatsoever. Just good, solid rock.
So we take things down a peg or two for the next song. We've got opening up with acoustic guitars, and this song is kind of like a ballad of sorts. So it's certainly a ballad in terms of its structure. So it's times of quiet, acoustic guitar, and then builds up to drums during the chorus. But the lyrics to this one are quite. We haven't really spoke much about the lyrics, but I think this is the one where Neil's making a point: is nobody's hero. And I think this would go on to be. I think this is one of the hits on the album, isn't it?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. Have you got anything? You got any notes or
overall,
any
just
other thoughts?
It's a nice enough song. I was probably a bit more about the lyrics, really. Is there anything in your book? Because what the one I was reading was saying along the lines of.
Yeah, go on.
The way we kind of make heroes out of people that have died when they're not really heroes, and by making them heroes, you're selling them short in another way.
Yeah,
because
that's
what go straight to the top shelf.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I've sort of got them thoughts myself. But I'll read what I've got.
I was
here.
interested to read what your book says, because my one sort of just touches on it rather.
But this one it says here, while the song's overall sound is considerably lighter, I'm just going to read the whole thing as it is, than the rest of Counterparts, its theme is very dark. Each of the song's two verses relays a story of the tragic death of an ordinary, unremarkable person. The song suggests that perhaps the value we put on human life is unreasonably skewed to those who are idolized for banal achievements. The song insists that the listener evaluates his or her own heroes and it's quotes a lyric here, while the champion player who plays the perfect game may well be worshipped by his fans, perhaps true heroism is in the pride of purpose, in the unrewarding job. Again, quotes from lyrics there. Peart's cynical yet ultimately hopeful lyric is critical of the monetization and glorification of celebrity culture, but also considers the other side, the numerous unrecognized heroes in our daily midst. And it obviously you're talking about those who do sterling work and are often not thanked for it. You're talking about those in the emergency services, etc., etc., those who work with the homeless, trying to make the world a better place, etc., etc. And but they're usually overlooked for celebrity.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, and so yeah, I think there's no holds barred here what Peart is writing about. And I know we've skewed over we've sort of glossed over the lyrics of the previous three songs, but again, lyrically, all three of them are superb. I personally think some great lyrics on all of these songs. I know we haven't really dipped into them too much, but this is the one I guess that people possibly would home in on.
it's the one where the lyrics are really the focal point. With the
Yes,
other
they
ones,
are.
we've got
Yeah,
big riffs, big drums. The songs sort of carry you along before you've even had a chance to really take notice of the lyrics.
yeah. This one
Nobody's
is
hero is the
they are very much to the forefront, and
mm.
the music is actually playing support to these words. Very well done, beautifully done, very tastefully done. See, the only other comment I've got in here, Lifeson performs the verses of this song on an acoustic guitar in the highly strung Nashville tuning. Basically, it's to make an acoustic guitar sound like a 12 string, and it's all to do with just the lower strings of the guitar being tuned an octave higher to give it that really flowery, not flowery, but generally that 12 string chorusy, bright sounding guitar.
Yeah.
So that's for the musos who are listening, to give it its light folky feel. So that's how he got that. But I was just looking, is there any other lyrics that sort of leapt out of you on this one? I think the little turnaround, like the refrain, as the years went by, we drifted apart. When I heard that he was gone, and then in the next one, it was when she was gone, I felt a shadow cross my heart, but he's nobody's hero. It quite touching set of lyrics, these. Yeah, it just was there anything more on the lyrics that was there any lyric lines
No,
that
the one that really
particularly...
speaks to me really is the opening verse about the his friendship with homosexual.
Oh right, yeah,
Because that's pretty much what I have. One of my best friends is Kay, and it was just funny hearing lyrics where that was addressed, because I've gone to parties at his house as a and gone out for his birthday and whatnot as a straight minority, and it does you meet certain people and you go to a thing and you get invited to a party or something and you do think, oh, what am I getting into here? But no, everyone's nice and everyone's just normal bloke, and you get introduced to someone and he goes, oh, and this is my husband. You go, it's fun, it's funny when it's there in front of you, but you get along well. Everyone's got the same job troubles or concerns as you have, and it is funny because they recognize each other. They know that you're not. I did even just have one comment. I only had one comment where it went, you're not even remotely bi, are you? I went, no. Shame. That was it. That's But so that line, it didn't feel a threat to my masculinity, just opened my eyes to a wider reality. And it's, yeah,
Yeah.
mix with
Yeah,
people that you wouldn't normally mix with, and you'll find you've always got more in common with people than what you think. And
yeah,
and you've
yeah,
always got something in common with someone. No matter, you could speak to anyone from any part of the world or culture or
yeah.
walk of life, but you talk to them long enough, you will have something in common. You
I think
can
so.
always
Yeah,
find something,
I,
as small as it is.
yeah, I think so. It's certainly been my experience. We all have the same hopes and fears and issues, and there's always something,
Mm.
isn't there, that you can connect with somebody else in all this. And yeah, again, it is. I think it, Peter, and we've always said this, a brilliant lyricist, but he is able to distill these very complex things into something quite coherent, but also very straightforward.
Mm.
And and I think that's the beauty of this particular set of lyrics. But it has that little touch of poignancy to it as well. I mean, certainly nobody likes to dwell on people passing away, but it affects all of us, doesn't it? We all know some, yeah. And I really, I think there's not really an awful lot more you can say about this particular song. It just gets to the point, and it puts it across in such a very subtle and a very thoughtful way.
Yeah.
And very simply as well.
The
Again,
second verse as
nice.
well,
Yeah,
it's about a girl that was killed by a serial killer or something, isn't it? And I
that's
didn't
what
know the
it.
girl, but I knew her family. I mean, we've gone from one.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the lyrics here. Yeah. Uh, all their lives were shattered in a nightmare of brutality. They try to carry on, try to bear the agony, try to hold some faith in the goodness of humanity. I mean,
Yeah, that was
I mean, wow. Just yeah. I can't add any more to what I've already said about it. It just and a nice solo on this. Very,
as
very,
always. Yeah.
as always, but I think again just absolutely captures the mood of it, of the song and the song's subject matter. Brilliantly done.
So moving on to the next song and bringing
Yeah,
together, tying in the title of the album, Counterparts. Here we've got two counterparts between sun and moon.
yeah,
Yeah, and apparently the Counterparts is laced all over the lyrics. If you
yeah.
look,
It
it's there if
is.
you
Yeah,
look for it.
yeah.
Um,
It is.
it's in it with "Animate Me" as well. But
Mm.
yeah, what do we think of between sun and moon? It's a pretty easygoing, straightforward track, really.
It is. But again, with this, good feel, like the feel of it. It's
I think
Alec Lives.
it'd be a good radio song. This would have worked
Yeah,
as a single, I think. It's got quite a big chorus.
I've got no information as to what was released as a single on this album. I don't know if any of the songs were ever released.
If it was a single, I don't know if it's doing a single or a video, because sometimes they make a video for a song, don't necessarily release it as a
Yeah,
single as well. That's a
they might have done something for MTV. I really have no idea. Perhaps some of the listeners might be able to fill in the gaps here. Lifeson describes this song as a tribute to the 60s with its muted fingered guitar, bluesy groove, and a flailing drum part. It's plain to hear. It definitely is a sort of a retro sounding song in a modern take. The unusual lyric with its psychedelic pseudo-religious overtones helps continue this theme. Another collaboration with the often inscrutable Pi Du Bois. This was regards to lyrics. His bizarre imagery adds an air of authenticity to this fiery homage or homage. The song is something of a showcase for Lifeson's guitar playing, through which he channels many influential guitar players, including Keith Richards and Peter Townsend. The song's bridge section, and you can hear it, is a clear attempt to capture the energy and excitement of The Who at their heavy best, something that, owing to their exuberant enthusiasm, Rush do succeed in. And I wouldn't disagree with that. And again, live, when this is played live, I don't think I've ever seen it played live. No, I haven't. But there's something of them playing this live. And that middle section with the clashing guitar chords and the drums really going for it.
The drums are quite complex on this. Again, Neil he's got that annoying habit of making the complex sounds simple. And during that chorus, is that
it does. Yeah, it's sort of, and that he does it sort of half and half in that chorus. The yes to yes, R to yes. He's playing it fairly straight at the beginning, as straight as Neil Peart ever was, but then he'd start bringing in almost like the tribal drums again. And this song, it just goes
to show that what he does, it will always serve the song. He's never showing off.
No.
And that, a drummer at an amateur level would be playing along to that song. That little boop, that would probably be the bit that throws them off, even though it's just a simple little detail in the song. I can imagine many drummers just going, let's just skip that bit.
It's just his expression of how he played and things that he was into and what sort of was rhythmically interesting to him. So he'd still approach songs in quite a workmanlike way and try everything. I think he's been quoted as saying, you throw the kitchen sink at absolutely every song and then reject patently what doesn't work at all, and then what you're left with is something that you can work with. And I think generally all three of them were like that anyway, with regards to how they structured songs and structured their parts and weaved them and stitched them all together. So with regards to this song, this was, and again, we're going to get to this, obviously, when they came back after their hiatus on the Vapor Trails tour, it wasn't long after John Entwistle had passed away. They played this song specifically as a tribute to John Entwistle.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And that was that's when they kicked off the Vapor Trails tour. I think it was in
between
Hartford.
Sun and Moon. So is there a nod to Keith Moon in there as well? Maybe.
Yeah, I think so. That's how I sort of worked it. But yeah, I've got a clip of them saying this is a tribute to a fallen comrade, John Entwistle, and then they kicked into this song. Live, it sounded pretty good. It was just that little bit heavier, but it still sounded really good. Great. I like it. I like the song. Again, a good consistent effort, and again, I think they capture that energy of the Who in that middle section, just the way the guitars clashing away. I think it sounded pretty good to me. Again, quite simple. I'll say quite simple. The lyrics on this are good. They're to the point, really, aren't they? I don't. Yeah. Some need to pray to the sun at high noon. Some need to howl at the midwinter moon. Reborn and baptized in a moment of grace. We just need a break from the headlong race.
Just something he noted, just jotted down in a coffee shop.
That's it. Yeah, actually, you could just imagine that. Actually, you could imagine Neil doing that. there's a few lines there could be used then somewhere. And yeah, great stuff. I've got nothing else to say about it, Joe.
Okay. Let's get on then to Alien Shore. We're breezing through it this episode. I think this is going to be one of our shortest episodes, but it's a breeze of an album. They really have just cut off all the crap on this one and just got on with it. The songs just do what they have to do and then they get out. But yeah, Alien Shore is a bit of a as odd as things get on this album. It has a pretty straightforward chorus, but the verses have got a little bit of wiggliness going on.
Yeah, I think you've got a bit more prog in this particular song. It's you could easily overlook this particular song, but it is actually quite a lot going on this particular number. I'd say I don't want to hog all of this. Have you got anything from the book or just your own?
I've got nothing on this song.
No,
it's got a really good chorus that you and me do, and I like the way because during the verses it's all and Giddy's quite on the bass is quite.
Actually, the bass line is probably
and
one
you got
of
a
the
nice
most
little riff from
adventurous.
Alex that comes in there and there, that riff, and then it all just kind of interlocks for the chorus. It all just comes together, and then you got that you and me, and
it's a good strong chorus. It actually elevates into it, doesn't it? It really,
but it's quite a jammy number, isn't it?
It is. There's
especially during the solo section.
There is an awful lot going on this one. It says here certainly one of Lee's most adventurous bass lines is on this album. Is on this track. Dark and rapidly shifting spectre beneath its counterpart, licensed glittering arpeggiated guitar work, switching between steady hard rock and chord progressions in an alternative rock funk with alternative rock funk grooves. Alien Shore is a musical feast that perfectly reflects the lyrics theme of the other and how we respond to it. It says here it's another of Piat's lyrics that could so easily have slipped into platitude, but does not. With its realistic view of the world and acceptance that there is a gulf to cross before mutual respect and understanding can be attained, the song acts as a map and not as a guidebook. It says here the song's title may have been influenced by the album Alien Shores by another Canadian band called Platinum Blonde. I think I've heard the name, but I know very little about them. That's about as far as it goes. It said Lifeson had collaborated with this band on numerous occasions and was influenced at the time to incorporate some of their new wave style into Rush's sound through the mid 1980s onwards. Just an aside here, I mean, this made me smile. It says here, for reasons that are unapparent, Alien Shore begins with the sound of Lifeson squeezing his nostrils shut and half singing the words out of my nose. When you listen to it, it sounds really strange, doesn't it? Because I tried it. It's terrible. But here we go. Out of my nose. And then it goes in. And so why they put that in, I don't know. But it's just Rush. It's you going back to what you were talking about, the verses, as drumming wise, there's an awful lot of ghosting between the hits going on this, which sort of gives the verses that slightly shuffly, tripping over feel to it. And then of course you've got the bass that's really very, very intricate. And then you're saying about the interspersive Alec license. So yeah, it's almost like they're all playing something different, or they're all playing different songs, and then it all unites on those big choruses. It's an overlooked, I think possibly an overlooked one with regards to that. Some may regard it as the worst track on the album. I disagree with that. I think it's a great song. and say, yeah, for you and me, we hold the truths to be self-evident. For you and me, we'd elect each other president. I'm only quoting the last chorus here. For you and me, we might agree, but that's just us reaching for the alien shore.
I did read in the book I've got, the guide book, that apparently Neil was having trouble with his marriage at this point.
I have not got any comment
Yeah.
about that. That's
And there's a
interesting.
couple of songs of this Double Agent, Alien Shore, and you have a what the song?
That's interesting. Yeah, if you'd like to expand on that,
It was
I've got nothing about that.
exploring the way a marriage can change quickly, like things in a marriage can change, circumstances will change a marriage or change, so
Yeah,
things can change in a marriage. It isn't necessarily anything to do with the couple themselves, but now this is happens. People may see things certainly different, and apparently it was struggling because of Neil being away from home a lot.
okay, that's interesting. No, I've got nothing about that. Nothing about that at all. I'm, is it a case of
Counterparts was the album that discussed everything to do. That was everything going on in his personal life.
Okay.
That has been talked about from just about every source I know. Lyrically, he's dealing with the demons and struggles in his life. A lot of it is really controversial and personal, whether it's Cold Fire or Double Agent or even Everyday Glory. There are areas where he addresses where were separations in his marriage, and there was trouble, that was there. I mean, he was in a common law marriage. He wasn't wedded in a wedded church marriage. It was a really odd marriage and relationship, and he'd spent so much time away from home, on the road, and away from his family. His do-over that he was doing was radically different than what his first go round was. There's absolutely no question. I'm not sure what that line's alluding to.
No, I'm not either.
And when you listen to Counterparts, the rawness of Kevin Shirley brought out in it really fits the nerves of the lyrics of the record. And every single song that the record reflects something that is going on, and just how fast everything can change in a relationship and a marriage. Everyday Glory talks about a mum and dad fighting, and a little girl hears pounding on the wall.
Yeah.
And he has a daughter. She was younger, so there's all these things that were there. Cold Fire is a huge thing. Double Agent, there's no question. Neil is looking into two sides of himself. Double Agent is the darkest song ever written, hands down. Probably the most underrated as well.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, obviously we're going to look at these songs. No, I didn't know anything about that. I wasn't sure when you look at these lyrics whether he's viewed it with people that he knows, friends, and what they're going through. But for it to be somewhat deep, it is. When you look at the lyrics now, it sort of throws a new light on it, and it is very deep on this. I mean, just the opening line of Alien Shore: "You and I, we are strangers by one chromosome, slave to the hormone, body and soul, in a struggle to be happy and free, swimming in a primitive sea." Just you and I, we must dive below the surface. A world full of red neon and ultramarine, shining bridges on the ocean floor, reaching to the alien shore. So you could end up quoting all of these lyrics. I mean, all them verses are really very cleverly put together. It's the standard. They're all very cleverly put together. That's interesting. That is interesting. But I should imagine for anyone who's in a very successful band and you're constantly touring and you're on the road, it must put an inevitable strain.
I think any job where you're away from home a lot,
it will put a strain on any relationship. It must be difficult. It's got to be a difficult thing. And then, of course, you have to have discussions about it, don't you? You have to talk about it. You can't ignore it, and you can't run away from it. So yeah, but that's interesting, Joe, because I certainly had I've not seen anything like that, and there's certainly nothing mentioned about it in here. So that's an interesting insight.
Well, we
Interesting.
can get into it more over the next two songs. Well, certainly the one after this one, but we've got
Yeah.
the Speed of Love. There's not
Yeah.
really a lot to say about the Speed of Love. It's a nice enough song. You got a nice, clean riff, clean guitar. Ding, 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 ding. You know, it's got like it's a nice open sort of sounding. Again, this could easily be a nice friendly radio track. There's me slagging off the last couple of hours being too radio friendly. I keep saying these songs could be easily played on the radio, but no, this is a nice enough song that sort of cruises along nicely.
Yeah,
and a nice chorus that's repeated. You know, that's sort of the main thing that runs through the song. But yeah, Speed of Love is a nice enough track. It's not a standout, but it's not a skipper either.
No, it's not. No, arguably you would say this is the worst track on the album, but not in.
This is
like,
as bad as it gets.
It's like
yeah.
it's not a terrible song. No, it's not. But I would say of all of the songs on this album, this is probably the weakest one. I've not got an awful lot on this. I've just got a paragraph or two. It says here, mid-tempo song is Piat's attempt to mythologize romantic love and is an attempt to shed some light on how fleeting and complex love really is, as opposed to the fictional world of love that exists only in books, films, and pop music. That is literally the comment on that. It says here, Piat's drums occupy the background throughout the piece, but feature an impressive amount of detail, which when listened to carefully provide the sort of decoration in areas of the song that would otherwise remain empty. Lee and Lifeson now take a step back and allow the vocals to shine through on this one, notwithstanding the addition of a very simple yet very effective textural guitar solo on it. I think the music is sufficiently laid back enough on this one, but I do like Piat's drumming on this one. There is some very clever bits going on, and certainly towards the end, he brings in like a military style snare to bring it back up into the chorus. So yeah, is there anything on the lyrics that sort of stand out to you on this one?
Not really. I mean,
no,
yeah,
it does what it says, I guess.
Yeah.
Not to diminish it in any way, but I've got nothing more to say about it. It's a nice song. I think it's the worst one on the album, but it's not a bad song.
Yeah. Let's move on then to Double Agent, a much more interesting song. This is more one of the adventurous in terms of song structure, along with Alien Shore. So it opens, we've got a nice dark sounding bass tone. Some nice crazy sort of drum patterns on this, but this is where Geddy does some spoken word. He adopts this dark voice as he does it as well, but then it comes together with a nice chorus, really. At the speed, you know, it's it's an odd song. It's certainly them leaning back to their more experimental proggy days, I think, this one. But it comes back to that sort of clean riff that where would you rather be? Anywhere but here. You know, and then that comes back to what they were doing on the Speed of Love, just that you know, it's just a nice clean rolling chorus, but it goes a bit dark and a bit crazy and a bit weird during the verses.
It does, doesn't it, on this one? There's quite a lot of lyrics on this one as well.
That's because of the spoken words.
It'd be definitely. What have I got about this? It says here, while Rush had by this time largely left their progressive label, Double Agent harks back to their early work and is a fusion between complex rhythmic work, which is what you've already touched on, and powerful hard rock. Described by Lee as a complete exercise in self-indulgence, this song has an intensely and joyful exuberance that the band had not captured in the studio for many years. Written towards the end of the Counterparts sessions, this piece was designed as a vehicle for the band to let themselves go and escape from some of the more constraining arrangements on the rest of the album. The lyric is an expression of exhausted dilemma and uses the imagery of espionage and spy novels to describe two sides battling for dominance of an unsure mind. The final verse describes the clarity of mind that so often appears after a good night's sleep. Perhaps not a very rock and roll moral to the fable, but this is Rush after all, is what it says here. And it says here, and you've already mentioned it, Double Agent is another of Rush's songs to feature a spoken word by Geddy Lee, another quirky addition to this spirited song. So I thought that's what I've got on here.
But with there's a lot of straightforward songs on this album where, so they can afford to have a play around and see.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, that's a good balance on this album. We've got a good mix of the straightforward and they are Rush after all. They're meant to be pushing boundaries, and there's a little noodling around them.
Yeah, there is on this one, and again, and the solo is a bit quirky on this, and Alec Lyson's really sort of going for it, like sort of almost shredding the guitar at a couple of points on this. But done as it sort of required. He hasn't overindulged. He's done it.
They don't need to do that at this point in their career, because at this point they know what works and what doesn't. So
indeed.
Or they'll know if it works or if it doesn't. They don't need to put it out and get the crowd to tell them that they
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So was there any lyrics that leapt out at you?
None that leapt out. No.
It just it's just to say there's a lot of narration in this, isn't there? In this, so they are quite a long set of lyrics. It was just looking at that last bit that they mention. On the edge of sleep, I awake to a sun so bright, rested and fearless, cheered by your nearness. I knew which direction was right. The case had been tried by the jury inside, the choice between darkness and light. I've got nothing more to say, Joe, as always.
Shall we move on? The band doesn't have much to say either, because the next track's an instrumental.
Indeed. Indeed.
And
what have you got about this one?
What my mum always used to say to me as a kid: leave that thing alone.
Yep. What do you think of this as an instrumental?
It's a cool little instrumental, isn't it? It's
yeah, it is. It is a cool one.
I don't think it's quite up there with your classics, but it serves the purpose, doesn't it? It's
yeah. It I quite like, again, they're pulling in various influences on this song again, and it mixed it all up, and here it is, Have you got any comments in the book you got about this one?
That's not even mentioned, I don't think.
Really? No. Really? It's not got a lot mentioned here, but I'll share it with you. It says here, this instrumental continues where's my thing left off.
Oh, right.
Where left off on the previous album, with its funky bass and drum interplay though synthesizers and big band influence have been largely excised in favor of a more avant-garde jazz influence. Peart also incorporates his take on Nigerian-style drumming in this constantly changing piece. Lifeson's singing guitar provides respite from the intense rhythm section and soars over the instrumental's melodic refrain. While this piece has little in common with the band's older material, the smack of wood blocks, because you can hear them on here, that gave even more character to YYZ can also be heard on this track. Again, drumming wise, a great performance by Neil on this, and again he's interspersing some electronic.
There's some pauses as well.
Yeah, exactly. You like the big accents that are going on underneath that soaring lead lick or hook or whatever you want to call it from Alec Lifeson is all there, but the bits that they're talking about, he'll play the beat fairly straightforward, and then he goes off on one where he's going right round the kit with these particular phrases that just gives it that slightly different color. The one thing I love on this, and it's a really, where they play it quite heavy, the old you got the bit where it cuts completely and goes into like a jazz section, and Peart is playing sort of more jazzy drums, and you're getting these sort of accents coming in, but it comes out of that and he plays that heavy riff again, and then he does this very, very fast drum break, which sounds very odd, but it really is. It's a great piece to, and to try and copy it is very, very difficult. But it's all triplets and all sorts of things. So again, they're all sort of like sharing the limelight on this particular song. You get these little drum breaks appear and Lifeson with that, and again the bass is pretty to the forefront as well, and sort of it effectively brings the song in with the it's all very funky. But again, it was quite people. I've seen them play this live, and it tends to be the forerunner for Peart going into a drum solo.
Oh, right, yeah, that makes sense. Especially during the pauses with
but they'll play this song in its entirety, and because Alec Lifeson backs out of it, and then you just got the bass going with the drums, and they'd finish it. I mean, famously, it's on Rushing Rio anyway, how they would do it, and then Peart goes straight in and begin his drum solo, and the other two would vacate the stage. So, again, I think it's a good strong instrumental. I think it adds to their collection. You could probably do an album of just Rush instrumentals.
Would you go watch a show like that?
What, we're just pure instrumentals?
Just all instrumentals, yeah.
Yeah, I probably would actually. I probably would.
That's funny. Napalm Death have got songs normally at the beginning of the album or the end of the album where it'd be like a slow, sort of crushing, doomy number. And at a festival, funny enough, they said like we're known for being this fast, and fast riffs. He goes, but we actually got quite a repertoire for slow numbers. And in this particular festival, they do a bit of messing about with industrial here and there as well. Real like old industrial, like Throbbing Gristle and old like experimental bands like that. And they did a set of just the doomy numbers. At a festival as well. You think they could have got a tour out of that, but yeah, that was quite a.
I mean, talking about festivals, I think for bands it's probably quite difficult where to pitch their set, because you want I dare say you probably have to approach a festival in a slightly different way to
Well,
tour.
because the majority, I would say you'd have to go in there assuming when you're a headliner, it's a little different.
Yeah.
But yeah, the majority of the audience haven't heard of you. That's for you to win new people over.
So you've got to go in with your strongest stuff, really.
I would say, yeah, as a festival set, I'd go, no, we're not playing to the crowd on that one. This we need to get new people.
Yeah.
You go, bloody hell, I've never even heard of them before. I'll check them out, because that's what festivals are for you to check out new bands that you otherwise wouldn't have. And that's what you're right. You got 35 minutes. Here you go. And a successful set is to go, bloody hell, I've never even heard of them. And I went straight to the tent afterwards and bought a shirt or bought a CD. And
that's it. You do. You want a set that's going to grab people. So you want it to be your best, your most accessible, I would have thought. Material. Basically, you're showcasing yourself, aren't you?
But even a headliner, I know the whole you're the headliner, but still,
you still got to
right. Maybe if you're on a lower stage or earlier in the day, three quarters of the crowd haven't heard of you. If you're the headliner, a quarter of the crowd haven't heard of you then. But even that other quarter, I would say half the audience are there for you. A quarter of others couldn't give a shit about you. I've never heard of you at all. And the other quarter is, oh yeah, I've heard of them. They're all right. And you've still got to win them over, though. You've still got to make you go, no, you are casual and you know a couple of songs. But you're going to be leaving a fan, You've got to. Yeah, I still think it's anything other than a headline show where it's, an arena or a venue where it's you. Anything apart of that is like, no, you need to be.
Yeah, you've got to be careful not to overindulge. I think
Royal Blood found that out the hard way this summer. That was quite controversial. Did you hear about that?
I haven't.
When he basically started berating the crowd for not dancing, or you're a crap crowd, or
no, you should never ever do that.
No, and it's like, well, you're not. You probably weren't playing to people that knew you. That's why.
That's the thing.
And that's
definitely. Yeah. I think with regards to festivals, I remember I went to Reading Festival, and the headliners were Red Hot Chili Peppers. Great little band. I've always quite liked their stuff, but they sort of lost my interest, and I was someone who sort of quite liked them, because the intensity of the set just ebbed and flowed too much. It wasn't, and also they would end up jamming between numbers as well, which I thought was not a good thing to do, personally speaking. I mean, there may be Red Hot Chili Peppers fans who say, well, you're not a real fan then.
But they weren't playing to real fans.
Yeah, exactly. You go to a festival and you want the bands to play their songs. So play the songs, because that's what you're there for, and that's what fans have come to see. And they played them, and when they played their stuff, it was fantastic, but it was too sporadic for me. And then the other one, I wasn't there, but I watched it on the TV, the famous Live Aid back in 1985. You had all these bands coming on for 20 minutes and playing, obviously, for the entire day. And they all came on and did their bit and played very well. But the band that stole the show that day were Queen. They totally stole the show, but they rehearsed intensely for that set, and they absolutely amalgamated.
They would have rehearsed intensely for it, but that crap film that was out a few years ago, where it was like the band had split up and they'd reformed for this one gig, and Freddie knew that he was dying, and utter bollocks. He wasn't diagnosed with HIV for 2 years after that. The band weren't splitting up. In fact, Freddie Mercury was actually the last of the band to put out a solo project or side project. No, the reason they were so good that day is because they just finished a tour. They had been gone from doing 2 hours a night to 20 minutes. So they would have rehearsed, and
They
the way the
rehearsed,
songs
but
were etched down, so they kind of did a medley, didn't they?
they did a medley. That's what I meant. They actually arranged it, and very clever with the arrangement.
Yeah, but the way that film frames that the reason they were so good that day is because they just finished a tour. They were a well-oiled machine,
Yeah, they were, because the tour that preceded that was the Works tour, which I saw them on. And they were on it. The only thing that was apparent on the night that I see them, and it was towards the end of the tour, Freddie Mercury's voice was shot a bit.
Well,
definitely.
but musically,
it was really bang on. And obviously they had a bit of a break from that tour, and it was enough for them for Freddie to recuperate. And also, but I think the way they put all that together and stitched a load of their hits together in like basically an 18-minute medley was terrific and very, very clever. I thought they did that very well. But they showcased themselves, and it worked, because then, of course, I mean, they were popular then, but it really skyrocketed.
Yeah, because the entire country was watching that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and they knew that.
I never even. It's a common trope as well. I never even liked Queen until I saw them at Live Aid. Yeah.
Indeed. I had liked Queen anyway, but I think that really propelled them then.
And that was, it's hard to. Well, it's easy to overlook as well how much of an event that was, because although it was at Wembley Stadium, the entire country was watching that.
It was, and then
I remember my dad. He's upset about it even to this day, even though I've bought him it now on DVD. But he taped it, and my uncle taped over it, and he forever held a grudge against my uncle, even though he's got it on DVD now. I remember this. I had this on video, and your uncle taped over it.
And obviously the reason was obviously to raise money because of the starving people in Ethiopia and the terrible things that were going on there, and you mustn't lose sight of that fact. But of course the bands would ultimately profit from this as well anyway.
Although they played free on the day, it would have
exactly. The payback far outweighed what they had to put in, sort of thing. So, but so interesting line of conversation going on about. I think it was me. I don't know. How did we get on? We were talking about festivals or something was mentioned.
We spoke about festivals, and then it got onto Queen. Yeah, the perfect example of a band doing a.
Yeah, exactly. So there we go.
Preview set? No, that's not the word. I'm trying to think of a word for it. A taster menu, shall we say?
Yeah, actually, I think that's it. I think it's so certainly for me, it was always about they would showcase themselves to the uninitiated, to those who didn't know much about them, or if anything. So, yeah.
Right, whereabouts are we in the album?
We've just done.
We're on Cold Fire.
Yeah.
This opens with a. You mentioned the Who earlier. The opening riff to this is a bit like the Who, and you think, oh, this is going to get bit, and then it just takes a totally left turn, and then just goes into clean guitar.
Yeah,
and then this song, I think, could quite easily fit on some of the previous albums. It's quite a mellow song. It's just got a good sort of rhythm to it, and I'll be around.
Well, that's it.
I can't remember how it goes now, but it's a mid-paced winder down, I think.
It is. Again, it's and you've already alluded to with the comments you said earlier about it. It is again about the thing about relationships and the complexity of it. Have you got anything you need to?
Yes, there's a line from that book actually. I think it's this one.
Yeah, go on.
Is this one that says this isn't a love song?
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
this isn't a love song, but it is a song about love.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
I think
it
that
is.
alludes to what I was saying earlier about how dynamics in a relationship can change over time.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. I'll read what I've got in front of me. It says here, while this song was eventually regarded by the band as one of their favourites on the album, it did not come together easily. The lyric, which presents a conversation between a potential romantic couple, is unusual territory for the band, and it was extremely difficult for them to find the right sort of feel for the piece. Lee explains, you want to make sure it doesn't sound too trite or hackneyed, or you're not just doing yet another song about relationships. The band credit Collins's excellent production for helping to craft the song into its final form and giving it the space and atmosphere needed for Lee's, it says here, raconteurish delivery. Cold Fire, following on from Speed of Love, is a song that Peart uses to further debunk the law of love songs. The female character in the song, who is the more astute of the two characters, at one point states, and the line that you have already quoted, this is not a love song, this isn't Fantasyland. Lifeson is once again at the fore of the piece with the explosive main riff, which I agree with you, has got the smacks of Townsend to it. Explosive main riff and wonderful guitar solo. And I do like his solo on this. It's quite nice. Quite a nice solo. It fits, again, unsurprisingly, fits well. Lee's performance of this complex lyric succeeds in portraying the story in a genuine way while maintaining the melodic center of the song, which you've already quoted, obviously, the chorus, I'll be around if you don't let me down too far. Lyrically, I like the way this motors along because it's sort of, you get that nice, quite sort of heavy-ish beginning with that guitar riff, and then it just sort of goes very straightforward, doesn't it? Then with the verses, and it gives that space for the lyrics. You know, especially with even the opening line. It was long after midnight when we got to unconditional love. You know, it just, there's so much air there in that. But the bit I really like is when it really seems to step up a gear, and then it's sort of more like it's not a refrain section, but it's almost like what people might call a middle eight. And it comes out of the chorus, I believe, and it sort of, the lyrics are, "Don't go too far. The phosphorant wave on a tropical sea is a cold fire. Don't cross the line. The pattern of moonlight on the bedroom floor is a cold fire. Don't let me down. The flame at the heart of a pawnbroker's diamond is a cold fire. Don't break the spell. The look in your eyes as you head for the door is a cold fire." Yeah, but musically, it's really pushing it there. I mean, the bass and the drums are really pushing, and there's a lot of rhythmic. One of Peart's signature ride patterns, which is like a Latin triplet E feel on the ride cymbal there, is just absolutely pushing the whole thing forward with this. Yeah, I like this song. I like this one. It's certainly one I would never skip.
Yeah.
Again, just, I think like all of this album, there's very few things to fault it on. I think with this one, they sort of got the combinations and the flow and the feel and the dynamics absolutely right on them overall. So yeah, great little song. I like it.
No, yeah, no, it's a great, yeah, it's a good little number. And right, so we've reached the end of the album, the final track, the fantastic closer. I think this is one of my all-time favorite Rush songs, "Everyday Glory." It's this is just a perfect song. I don't even know where to begin or where to finish. I think I could do a podcast on its own about how great this song is. It's just fantastic. It's it reminds me of U2 in the best possible way. This is one of the greatest songs U2 never wrote in terms of the guitar tone, like the guitar effect sound on the guitar sounds. But again, it's just this open, bright, uplifting song all the way through. The lyrics to get dark, but it comes out at the end. Just that I love that. You know that Alex's guitar on this is just fantastic. Great drums as well that just fit in with the lyrics perfectly. You know, it's just this must be a great song to drum along to. And the lyrics are just amazing. And again, a beautiful chorus. Where the chorus is just no matter what they say, you know, that's just repeated, but it's backed by that guitar, brilliant. If you're ever down and you need a bit of inspiration for whatever reason, listen to this song. We're all up against it, we're all fighting it. But everyday sunrise, every day, another everyday story, rise from the ashes, a blaze of everyday glory. Just one spark of decency against the starless night. That line alone, brilliant. Because we start off at the beginning with a child hiding in their room while mum and dad are arguing. But then there's this line: one glow of hope and dignity, a child can follow the light. It really comes down to the last. Like I said, the spark of decency in the kids of starless night. But the last, it's not really a verse, but not sure what it is, but it goes before it goes back into its last chorus. If the future's looking dark, we're the ones who have to shine. If there's no one in control, we're the ones who draw the line. Though we live in trying times, we're the ones who have to try. Though we know that time has wings, we're the ones who have to fly. Good Night Vienna.
It is.
And then back into that.
It's just such a wonderful hook, isn't it? It's just
but the whole song, the structure of the song with the guitar, the way it goes, and that picking at during the verses. Geddy's vocals are brilliant in it. Again, the drums are fantastic. It's just the little details. It's that little, it's just that, and it just rolls along nicely.
It's a great song to finish the album with.
Perfect song. Perfect.
It is. It's a great album finisher, and in some respects, it's sort of, as you said, in many ways, it's sort of pretty much the highlight, and it sort of just brings everything of the whole album together in this statement. You know, just the way it goes. It's a nicely put together piece, a great composition, and
yet it's so simple.
Yes, it is. It is, and that's again, it's Peart has said about numerous songs of them, or he had said about the songs, is that they'll take a song musically and lyrically complex, make it complex, and then try and make it simple. And just try and
strip it down.
Strip it down and draw and draw a straight line through it. And I think in this one again, they've done exactly that. You've said an awful lot, and that's fine. I'm just trying to pick out stuff because there's quite a bit on this song. Let's see. It says here, while Peart's political and philosophical views have developed enormously since his pro-objectivist work in the 70s, this uplifting and hopeful song contains the distilled and refined remnants of these earlier views. In Everyday Glory, Peart encourages each of us to be our own hero and take responsibility for our own lives, but also to be the light in the dark, to be the good we wish to see in the world. The heartbreaking image of a disintegrating family in the first verse is emotive imagery that, whether taken at face value or as a metaphor, has a clear message. We all make mistakes and we all experience suffering, but we must all, like the mythical phoenix, rise from the ashes and carry on. The lyric to the second verse is reminiscent of Subdivisions, with its imagery
the
of
city then that when
with its imagery of boredom and uniformity. Here, Peart gives credit to those silent and largely invisible positive motivators that helped him and others like him escape his confines and achieve his dreams. And I think you've already quoted those lyrics. Just one spark of decency, etc., etc. I'm not going to repeat them again. Everyday Glory is a song that presents a difficult truth in a motivating and encouraging way. It may be that we really are on our own and that nobody is coming to our aid. It may be that the world really does owe us nothing, but it is for these reasons that we have to be even more determined in our resolve. If the future's looking dark, you've already quoted this, we're the ones that have to shine. There's no one in control, etc., etc. And we're the ones that have to fly. I'm not going to quote everything again that you've already done. It says, while the music edges close to the realms of cliche, I don't know, I'm not sure that I agree with that comment. The integrity that Rush have so obviously maintained in their previous work makes this song convincing in its honesty. Thus, what could have fallen flat as a trite motivational piece comes across to most listeners as a brilliantly uplifting song, which is what you've said, Joe, and what I think as well. Peart's inspiration for Everyday Glory came, like many of his lyrics, from his travels. While many cynics disagree, this song stems from his belief that in all neighborhoods of the world, the heroes still outnumber the villains. That's everything. I just thought it was worth quoting as much as I've done now with it. But yeah, like you, Joe, like the song, very uplifting, wonderful hook, great chorus on this. It just it doesn't lack in any way to me, and a great way to finish the album.
Yeah,
really, really good.
And I think his album's bookended quite nicely. He's got a fantastic opener and closer.
Yeah.
And there isn't a song on here I don't enjoy, but I do think Animate and Everyday Glory are the two highlights for me. But if the rest of the songs were crap, I think that these two songs would be worth the entry price alone.
It is. You'd end up going back into the Roll the Bones territory for me. I think if it was just that, but happily, the whole album is a wonderful journey to go through. The whole lot. I enjoy them all. I say the lowest one for me is probably The Speed of Love, but that is by no way diminishing that as a song. It's just, of this group of songs, that is the weakest one to me. The rest of them are all of such a good quality and level, and just brilliantly produced, brilliantly executed, and it was a belated return to form that was sort of pretty much promised on Presto, but it's been fully realized here. Great album. Nothing more to say. And like you, great one to have in the car when you're driving. It just really, and I found myself, when I was listening to this driving to and from work, the amount of times I found myself singing along to it was
it's just a driving, like a good driving,
absolutely, really
kicking
really
album
good.
where
absolutely,
the porridge is just right on this one, isn't it? It's everything
definitely.
is just in place. Everything is doing what it needs to be doing. The songs don't outstay their welcome. They all do what they need to do. they've got everything they need though, with good riffs, good choruses, great drums, fantastic solos, great melodies. The album sounds live and organic.
Indeed.
And you've got everything you want in a Rush album that they weren't just. There was something in those last 3 albums that just wasn't there, and on this one it is.
Yeah, it's back.
And although those albums still had their moments, you know, they weren't bad by any stretch, but there was just I
think with regards to the previous 3, I think if you look at
I'll go back to my shower analogy, basically.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're quite right with that. With the 3 previous albums, I think if they could have distilled them down into 2, then they
possibly, I think you've got
they would have been really good albums if you catch my drift. But obviously they were different styles and they were at different points.
They feel I think they just did feel inspired again. The last time there was moments of greatness, but at the time they were just treading water.
Yeah, absolutely.
The motions.
I think
apparently they did take a bit of a break before this and did kind of freaking go right.
Well, yeah, they did.
Then they did acknowledge this is going to be the start of a new era. Like, what are we?
Yeah,
they did look and go, right, what have we done that's worked? What hasn't? What do we need to drop? What do we want going forward?
Yeah,
and this feels like the band are refreshed and reinvigorated.
They are. I think it was. I think at this point this was the longest break to date. This was just over 2 years.
Apparently this wasn't a very long tour though. Do you want to get into the
I can do with some stats and stuff like that. This tour was a fairly short tour. It was about 4 months and it was only the USA and Canada. 54 dates only, which I thought was really surprising.
Which is nothing.
I was looking at where they played. I don't know if they were necessarily bigger venues, so they were still playing to quite a few people, but it was only 54. And the songs they played from this album, excuse me, Cold Fire, Nobody's Hero, Animate, Stick It Out, Double Agent, and Leave That Thing Alone. They were the ones from there.
Yeah. And the other ones have been played in subsequent tours, I trust. Let him have a swig of vodka to clear his throat.
Yeah, it's not vodka. Excuse me. I don't think you said, Dave, I can't see any record, excuse me, of them playing any other songs from this album.
Have they never played Everyday Glory?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of, but again,
I would close every show with that.
Listeners may well be able to say, no, they did
we're going to do a live album show anyway. So go through it all then.
What about the artwork? You got anything? Comments on the artwork?
It's not much to look at, is it? But the artwork apparently is, you've got Salt and Pepper, it's just a series of photos of.
Yeah. I mean, it says here, Syme's impressive work for the band continues with an almost impossibly large number of literal counterparts displayed throughout the album booklet.
But this front cover suits the album because it's a stripped down basic counterparts is to think there's a counterpart.
Yeah, of course.
And there's a little triangle thing on it. But that suits the album because the music is very stripped down and no nonsense. This is absolutely to the point. You know what you're getting, kind of get the idea of what the album's going to sound like with this. Indeed. So it does suit the album quite nicely. No nonsense music with no nonsense artwork.
Indeed. It says, I'm just going through like the liner notes on this. It says here the album features a small number of additional musicians. John Webster is credited for playing some additional keyboards, while the notable composer Michael Kamen, Kamen, arranged and conducted the orchestration on Nobody's Hero. The primate who is featured on the album's booklet is not credited, while his keepers Monkey Business are. And it's the usual list of those inspirational. And it says here at the end, and our counterweights and counterparts, our families. It says the album is brought to you by the letter, and it's sort of like an O and an E that have been smashed together. I don't know how that's pronounced. Again, somebody will have to let us know what that means. Personally, I've already alluded to, really the album should have been brought to you by a hairy pair of testicles, really. And I don't know who these people are, but it says the album is in memory of Pat Lynes, Lynes, and Lee Tenner. So I don't know who these people are or were, but it's dedicated to the memory of these two people. I was just looking back statistically. Where did it? Chart positions. In Canada, it was number 6. In the UK, number 14. And I already said in the US, it was number 2. So, I mean, number 2 in the US is a big seller. So,
yeah, it's not bad. Yeah.
So that's it. I've got no other notes on this at all. So.
Yeah, right. Well, I think we've reached the end then, folks. Yeah, a breath of fresh air and a new standard going forward for Rush. So this has been Counterparts, released in 1991. 3. Next up, Test for Echo in 1996. But we're going to take a little deviation before then on the next episode, because although this was released in September of 1996, in January of 1996, Alex Lifeson put out a album. This is now under the name Victor, and it's only Victor on the title, so it's just says Victor, so it's a project. But now it's kind of retrospectively known as Alex Lifeson Victor. So kind of a solo album now, but it was a separate project at the time. But we'll go into all the details and all the nitty gritty. But yeah, many a fan, I think this overlooks a lot of people. So do your homework, folks, and have a good listen to this before the next episode. And then episode after that,
as well.
We'll be back on track.
Yeah.
So yeah, something a bit different next week.
Okay.
And on that note, thanks for watching. If you made it this far in, give us one of them. Subscribe to the channel. Share it around with your friends. If you're speaking to anyone with Rush, go to them. Have you listened to Rushcast yet? And give it a share. Everything is in a playlist. So if you go onto my channel, go onto the videos, go onto playlist, and Rushcast is all there in a nice, neat list for you. So if this is your first show, you can go back to the beginning, listen to Rush, and listen to us guide you through the back catalogue. And yeah, we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for watching. And it's goodbye from me.
Yeah, and it's goodbye from me as well. Have a good week, folks. Cheerio.
Take care, everyone. See you soon.